You know what? Let's start a new series. And we're going to call this one Vampire Hosts. So, this one is very exciting for me. Today's guest, we're going to be talking with Erin Chapman. And Erin is somebody who I've been following for probably 10 years now. She goes way back with a website that she designed and built with one of the foremost vampirologists in the world, Anthony Hogg. The two of them have been doing vampire-related research studies and blog posts for a very long time. And most excitingly of all, Erin has just started a YouTube channel called Morbid Planet, which is awesome. And so it makes my heart very happy that she is delving into the YouTube space. And also it makes my heart very happy to be able to introduce you guys to her. So thank you very much for being with us, Erin Chapman.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here.
That's excellent. So Erin and I are both actually kind of swapping interviews. Yesterday, She interviewed me, and today I'm interviewing her. So this is very exciting that I get to ask her all of the questions that I've always wanted to know. But I'm still kind of recovering from from all of the emotional drain of yesterday's episode. So if I seem like I'm a little giddy, that's why. So Erin, I know that this is kind of like asking you to tell us the ending of the story first, but tell us about Morbid Planet and what it is for people who haven't seen it yet, and where you came up with it.
So Morbid Planet, I guess it started off as a website, and one of the reasons that I decided to make it was wrote about vampires for many years, and vampires are such a small niche, and I've always been a horror fan since I was a kid, like reading Stephen King's and watching scary movies and things like that. But if I had to pick which part I liked the best, is vampires. And so after writing for so many years, it was one of those things where I felt like I needed to eventually branch out and kind of do something else, which just gave me so much more room to work with creatively. And that's where I actually started the website. And the website was one of the things where I thought about doing it for quite a while, and I just hadn't got around to it because I was busy writing or doing other things. And unfortunately, I put it together when my grandma passed away. And she had passed away, I guess it was May 5th. And it was one of those things where I think I kind of threw in a lot of energy as well, putting into it, because I just didn't really know what to do with myself. And if I kind of stopped and thought about stuff, I just got upset. So I just kind of put everything in there, designed it, did it, all the stuff, and then started just making content right away for it. And I just kind of kept going from there. And I really enjoyed the fact that it does the horror genre. It has interviews, it has reviews, it can deal with news items, dark tourism. It just kind of envelops everything that I enjoy, but in one spot that I want to see. And sometimes I would see similar websites, like one that I like is Atlas Obscura. And I've been following them along for years when they started and they were so small and different things like that. So it's something that I kind of wanted to do myself. And for one of the things I like is I have deathly destinations. So it's like you can actually look up and see where it is. And my hopes is eventually to get more virtual tours and things for that section, because with COVID, why not? You can't go anywhere.
Totally.
So
Totally.
people need something to watch. And I did that for a few years and wrote on it. And then kind of was toying with the idea of going on camera, doing a YouTube channel. And again, it's one of those things where I just kept putting it off because I don't want to be in front of the camera, and I still feel weird being in front of the camera. So
but you do such a good job at it.
Yeah, well, it's not my favorite thing, because I'd always be the person behind the scenes. I wouldn't be the person like, I'm going to be right here in the front. Everyone's looking at me. And my partner actually was the one who just kept telling me, like, just do it, just do it. And because again, with COVID then started, and there's a lot of things that I lost a lot of motivation. I'm not going to lie, with COVID. It bothered me. It still bothers me, but it was one of those things where, again, I needed something to focus on to like take my attention away from other stuff that I worry about. So yeah, he finally, I think it was in July or so, and he's just like, just make a trailer, do whatever. And it's like we talked about, just get it out there. It doesn't matter. And I think I procrastinated for a long time because of that. And so yeah, I finally just made the trailer, did it, and then just kind of as I've been going along, figuring out what I like, what I want to do, what kind of videos I like, getting backgrounds that I wanted behind me, and paying to
which
get
is
like
awesome, by the way.
an intro done, which I went and actually had someone make for me just because, again, my Photoshop and digital skills are not there. I do other things, but not that. And yeah, recently I paid for someone to actually make me a professional banner that I wanted to put on my channel. So coming from a marketing background, there's so many things that I want to do and I know I can do, but it's just, I have to do baby steps to get there. And I like the professionalism. I like to have things done a certain way because that's just the way I am. But yeah.
I see. And there's actually several things in there that I want to ask you about, but
Sure.
let's kind of start off from the beginning of that, where uh, you had been writing blog posts. You've been doing a lot of writing.
Yeah.
As long as I've been following you, you've been writing. Something inside of you was like, Erin, get on camera. Start a YouTube channel. Can you tell us what that was? Like, when did that bug actually bite?
Um, it's kind of one of those things that I thought about for a few years, just in the sense that from a marketing perspective, and it's weird, but that's where a lot of stuff that I do comes from because I know what needs to be done. And when you start to get views and things for people reading articles, you're never going to get the response that you get nowadays with people watching things because you've got your Instagram, you've got TikTok. All people want to do is watch, or YouTube. They just want to watch videos. And it was just kind of one of those things for me. It's like, well, I love writing, but then the other thing is when some of the articles that I wrote, when it takes 6 months to research and write it, again, it wasn't getting me the gratification. And also, I don't get nearly as much creativity that I want to put into doing something. And I've been a creative person, I guess, since I was a kid. Like, I used to take art classes. All the other kids would be like taking, sports and stuff. And I took like pottery, drawing, sketching, painting, like you name it. That's what I did for years, even up till college. I used to draw.
All
And it
right.
was just one of those things where I must say I fell out of love with it. I don't know why, but it was my early 20s. And I just was like, I'm just kind of done. I don't want to draw anymore.
Yeah.
And it was quite a few years until the writing came where I didn't do anything. And when the writing came, I was kind of like, yes, I have a creative outlet again. And this felt really good to do it. But then it kind of wound down also with the writing. So it's like, whether it was circumstances going around the world, what was going on, or what was just in my personal life, and some other people passed away, and just you start reevaluating and looking at things. Yeah, it's just one of those things where it kind of led there. And I like doing these just because I find it's given me more creativity than doing just writing an article and you decorate it with some pictures. But yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And I'm assuming that having spent, a decade or more in the space and interviewing people and talking to people and meeting people, you probably, at this point have a pretty big network and a lot of experience to draw upon to put into the show.
Yeah, it's the network is amazing because it's just people that I've met over the years. Yeah, there's been a lot of scholars, there's been some actors, lots of authors, and it's just led me into different paths. Like the other week when I interviewed Kathleen Ramsland, who is a serial killer expert, then she recommended some paranormal investigators. So it helps too, because then you're getting referrals to other people. So yeah, it's a good network to have. And that's how I met you kind of thing. It's like, through different things and it just kind of led it there.
Absolutely. So, obviously, you know, this particular channel is all about vampires, and you know, you have been in the strictly vampire space yourself before.
Hmm.
How does it feel actually branching out into, like you say, dark tourism and paranormal investigations and stuff that's sort of just outside the vampire microcosm?
I think in general, there's a bit of relief in a way. Because it's like I did so much writing, and obviously, as you know, Anthony, he's the editor for the website. So a lot of things, because I was also learning to write before I met him, I'd never written anything. So prior to Vamped, I'd written nothing in my life, and I was kind of learning as we were going
Wow.
along. So I give him props for that, very patient, or showing me different techniques or how to do it. And I think I picked it up really well because it just worked. But it's just one of those things where I kind of like not having to submit stuff to someone else to then edit or look over. It's like at this point, I can just do what I want, which to me is kind of the way my brain works creatively. That's why I think it works a lot better. Because sometimes I'd have an idea for an article and he's like, well, explain it to me, or how do you want to do this? And I'm like, it's up here. I can't. And then I would go and do
Right.
it. And then he's like, oh, okay, I see what you were talking about. Okay, yeah, I get it. So for me, it's kind of like I need that creative process. And I think for many years, writing, which was amazing, and I'm so thankful for doing it. But I like now where I'm at, where I can kind of just do what I want, figure out what I want. And if I like it, if I don't like it, and then you know what, I can just move on and do another one. And it's, you know, it's not taking also 6 months to research or write,
Right.
or like when I did the piece we were talking about with Forks, that took me about 4 or 5 months to put that together. And it was like,
Forks, Washington. Not like
yeah,
we weren't
Forks,
talking about
Washington
silverware, but yeah.
for Twilight, where I visited, interviewed the mayor, and I just checked out the whole town and just to see how they dealt with the phenomena of, you know, Twilight. And yeah, it took me that long just to put together everything to make this 12,000 word article. I took all the photos myself as well. So then I had to edit and do all those. And it's just, yeah, by the time I'm done, I'm like, yay, this is there. But then I find, you know, you like to put things out there for people to enjoy. And I
Totally.
found that, you know, you don't get as many people enjoying it because it's harder for people to find. And again, people don't want to read 12,000 words. So yeah, they some people will, some hardcore fans, they've read it and they're just like, this is great. But then other people are like, that's too long. I'm not reading that.
Sure,
So
sure, sure.
yeah.
So, so this is something that you and I haven't really talked about before. So, so we're all going to get to learn this together now, and that is you have sort of this mysterious background with Anthony Hogg,
Mm,
uh, who I have not met yet,
okay.
who hopefully can get on the show at some point because he seems like a very interesting guy. But when I discovered Vamped once
Yeah.
upon a time, it was both the two of you working on it, and it
Hmm.
seems like whenever I see Anthony post anything about like the Journal for Vampire Studies or something like that, you're always a name that is associated with it.
Yeah.
So clearly you guys have some working relationship that has been ongoing. Where did that start? And how does that kind of work?
It started in his Facebook group. So the
Where all
vampirologist.
good things start.
Yeah. Um, so I guess context for that is I also have written a vampire novel, which it's about 400 pages. I haven't done anything with it yet because I'm still editing it. So that's another
We're going to get
story.
back to that in just a little bit. Please keep going.
um, but one of the things I did again, because I have a marketing background, I was like, I challenged myself at first to see if I could write a short story. And I'm like, oh, I can do this. And this was just very right up before I met Anthony. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I can keep going. And then it just turned out that this story that I'd written, it just kept going and going. And then I started enjoying it. But to me, fictional writing is so much different than article writing. It's just
Oh, for
too,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't really count that as writing experience because, again, looking back now, and this is why it's taken me so long to edit, is from writing articles for so many years, my writing skills have improved so much. So now I go back and read it and I'm like, oh, the premise and the idea is there, but it's just the words I got to fix.
Sure.
And at this point, I've only like gone up to about 70 pages, and it's just black and white. It's just so much better now, but that's why I need to do it. So I knew that if I did decide to publish this book or self-publish, find a publisher, whatever, I know you need to have social media presence. So I opened a Twitter account, went on Facebook, and I'm like, let's find some vampire groups to see, network, socialize with people, whatever. And I happened to join Anthony's group. And I want to say it was November about 2013, I think, where we met.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And again, I just commented on something and then we were kind of talking, and then we ended up messaging each other and going back and forth and talking. And we kind of hit it off in the sense because he also had his blogs at the time. And then we kind of talked about it, I think was a few months in about January where Vamp started. And what got us on the topic as well was, I guess that November, it was about a week or two before I met him, I'd actually gone to West Vancouver here, and Anne Rice was here. And she was doing a presentation, book signing for, I think it was The Wolf Gift, the series that she'd started. And so I mentioned that, oh, I went to West Van and I got her to sign my books. And it was great because I've been a fan since I was like in high school. And he's like, do you want to write about it? And I'm like, no, I don't write. I was like, no. And he encouraged me. He's like, no, let's write about it. And we could put it, on the website. And it was one of those things that ended up getting done. And he helped me go through it and what needed to be where. And then Vamped kind of came along after that. And it was just more like working together. And I'm like, you obviously be an editor because I know nothing about this. I'm just going to write and figure this out as I go. And yeah, I just kind of went from there. And then I think the next thing I wrote was what we were talking about, Vampire Diaries, yesterday. So how I broke up with the Vampire Diaries, because at first I'm like, I cannot do this series. And it took, the second try. And yeah, I just kind of kept going from there. And it's just different things that came up over the years. And, I like a lot of pop culture. That's my thing. His thing is more, folklore, history, academic stuff. So we both have very different tastes, and we just kind of kept going and doing that. And then it's one of those things where we started having more Facebook groups, and then we started admitting them together. And one of the reasons, I guess, that we worked really well with doing that is because it's like, I trust him, he trusts me. And yeah, we didn't meet in person until a couple years later. I want to say, I think it was 2015, we went to Texas for a vampire symposium that Dax did, which I know you've talked to Dax.
Yes.
And I flew from Canada, Anthony flew from Australia, and we got to hang out, I think 3 or 4 days. So it was weird because I'd talked to this person for so long, and then we actually, got to go to a bar and have some drinks and, go to a vampire symposium together. So, and that's where I met Gordon and a bunch of other scholars, and it just kind of went from there just because, you start networking with more people. So yeah, and then it just kind of kept going and going. It was interesting because, as I say, I'm not a scholar, I'm not an academic, but I can hold my own. And right. I think I did really, really well with that. But sometimes when you see some of the presentations, it's just like this sounds really cool. And I'm really intrigued. And I even took notes. And I remember I also recorded the presentations on video as well, which I don't think we've actually ever done anything with them, actually. Yeah, I still have them on my hard drive, but, we recorded them all. So yeah, it's just been kind of a thing that just kind of kept going. And then back in, I guess it was 2018, I went to Dublin for a vampire congress as well, and saw lots and lots of scholars there, it was about, I guess, I'd say about 50 people were there. So there was a lot.
Okay.
And it's the first time I'd been to Dublin because we go to England all the time. But part of me was sad because we were there for the weekend and I couldn't sightsee. But then I was doing all my vampire stuff. Well, everyone else who went with us went and saw things and drank beer and other things. So yeah.
Gotcha. That's excellent. So Something that our viewers might really want to know about is that Erin admins, like she said, a number of Facebook groups that are vampire related. Can you tell us a little bit about those and sort of how those work?
I recently downsized.
Okay.
So
Oh, perfect. Just in
yeah,
time.
yeah. At one point, I think between pages and groups, there was about 40.
Oh my
So
God, what?
yeah, and at the last few years, I told Anthony, I'm like, this is too many. I can't do this. Because it was just too much. And we've got another one that I started, Vampire Fans, and that one, it's almost 10,000 people, I think, in that one.
Ooh.
And then we have pages as well with them. So there's a Vampire Fans page, there's a Vampire News page, there's a Vampire Community page, because you can share a little bit different things on those. But the smaller ones that we had, it's just, again, it was too much. So recently, that's where I was like, Anthony, you keep these, you do what you want. I don't know, but I just can't manage that many anymore. So
Right.
I did remove myself from a bunch of them, but there was like, we have also vampire books. There's a Dracula one. There's vampire dining, vampire events. Like there's so many different facets of vampires, everything. And what I did was marketing move was I had another one that was really popular that had about 4,000, and I called it Vampires in Death. So I had vampires mixed with, some taphophilia goodness that I like, and I put them together, and I wanted to see if it worked. And next thing you know, I had 4,000 people. So it worked. So I did all that, and then I actually was, I'm just going to rebrand it. So I rebrand it Morbid Planet, and I ended up getting a lot more new members, a lot more likes, a lot more. It just worked a lot better. So it worked out in that sense. And then I also created the page, and I had the page as well for a while. So
there might be some people who are watching this right now who are like, well, these groups sound fantastic. How do I get into them? how do people find you on Facebook to join these groups?
Well, it's one of those things where vampire fans or vampire community, that's probably the easiest ones to find. Okay. And you'll see when you sort and you look by the name, you can see the counts start usually the biggest at the top. So that's the easiest way to find it. And then usually in the pinned announcements, we have links to other groups. So yeah, that's the easiest way, because I don't really put them anywhere else but there. Like on my website is only for my Morbid Planet stuff. So I don't go and kind of mix the two. So
right.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, I'm a member of several of Erin's Facebook groups, and I basically use them as my vampire news feed. Like there's stuff that Erin and the other people there find that they post, and I'm like, oh my God, no idea that was happening. So so I highly recommend that you join them. And it seems like you have very nice people on.
Most people are really good there. Once in a while, you get crackpot or someone sneaks in. And,
sure.
Yeah, but like most of the people are really good.
That's cool. Yeah. Excellent. Well, tell us about this book. What's the specifically what is the quick couple sentence blurb about what the book is about?
So I don't have a title, and this has haunted me for years, and I really want a title, and people have been giving me advice how to do one, and I'm just like, no, I can't figure out a title. So at some point I'll have to. But it basically takes place in Vancouver, and it's about vampires, of course. And I tie it into some historical events, which I will not mention because I do not want to give it away.
Oh, excellent.
But yeah, some historic figures and events. It's actually tied in where I even researched all the dates, everything. So you go back and forth between now and a couple hundred years back, a bit longer. And then it just kind of goes back and forth. And then, it all comes together in the end. And it's very gory just because that's what I like. I've only let a few people read some of the chapters, and that's usually what everyone says. This is really gory and gritty is what they say. So I'm like, okay. So yeah. And that's how I like to write. And I think it works very well, but, yeah, we'll see. It's on my list of things to finish because I need to, otherwise it's just going to sit on my hard drive forever and haunt me. So,
That's
and
excellent.
I recently gave the 6 chapters to a friend who's an author, and uh, I told her, I said, look, I've had this for so long, and I gave her the chapters, and I said, read it, let me know if you like it, if you think it has potential. If it does, I'll follow through and I'll finish it. If it doesn't, it's just going to sit there and I don't care. I'll just forget about it. And I was secretly hoping she said it would suck. So, because then I didn't have to do it.
Right, right.
And she came back with, she was just like, this is amazing. Oh my God. And she didn't realize, I guess, at that point that I'd written the whole damn book. So she's like, you have to keep going. And I'm like, no, it's done. And she's like, what? I said, no, I have the whole thing. I just have to edit it. And she was just like, what have you been doing for this? I was like, I don't know. So yeah, I need to make time to edit. It's just, yeah. Which again, for me, it allowed me to be a lot more creative as opposed to, again, writing articles, because articles, they're great and I like them, but this is just a whole different ball game.
Sure.
So yeah.
Well, then let's go back a little bit here and now go to the beginning of the story of Erin Chapman and where did this fascination with the morbid come from?
Like when I was a kid, you mean that far back?
However far back
However
it
far?
goes. Yeah.
I guess it was one of those things, like when I was a kid, one of the earliest things I remember, because I wrote an article about this and I was talking about, like, it made me go back to think about things that I'd seen and, influences. And if you look back on it, you've got, like, your Count Chocula cereal. You've got, like, monsters are ingrained to us when we're little kids. And it
Right.
wasn't until I started thinking about it. One of the first things I remember watching, and I was probably only about 5, maybe, in about grade 1 or so. I used to not sleep a lot as a kid, and I would get up at like 6 a.m., sneak downstairs, sit in the dark in the living room, and I would watch House of Frankenstein. And I loved that show. Have you ever seen it? No.
No.
It's a kids show, but it's like, I want to say it was a half an hour, and they had, like, it was a big castle. They had like a wolf man. They had a Dracula with his kid who was a vampire. They had the wolfman was a hippie wolf, by the way, who danced to disco music. And they had I want to say, I think Vincent Price was in it, but I can't remember. They
Oh
had
wow.
I'm gonna have to Google this now just after we're done, because I can't remember all of it, but it had the whole thing, like, witches and ghosts, and it had everything in it. And I used to love watching that when I was a kid. And just from there, it was just kind of like, other cartoons like Scooby-Doo. I love Scooby-Doo. You had the ghost, you had the mystery, you
Oh
had things
yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
So I think a lot of it started back then. And when I was really young as well, I found Bunnicula, the vampire bunny. That was cool. I liked
Absolutely.
that. And also there was the sequels with Holiday Inn. And I remember reading those. And so it just kind of from there then started going into, like, further things, just because I read a lot faster than the grade I was in. So I started then, like we were saying, Michael Slade eventually. And it was like, I don't think my parents realized what I was reading, because I was like, oh, these are awesome. And it's like people are getting slaughtered and killed and serial killers everywhere. And yeah, so I just kind of kept going. And then it was Stephen King, and then it was different things like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and Hellraiser and, all that kind of stuff that we'd watch. But then there'd be other things like, Lost Boys or, stuff that we were talking about. So yeah, it just kind of kept going from there. And yeah, the vampire thing, though, I really got into that was in high school when I found the Vampire Lestat. I didn't find Interview with the Vampire. I found Vampire Lestat first at the library. And I remember taking it home and
Oh.
I read it and I was just like, this is amazing. And I loved it. And then I was like, crap, there's a book before this. So I had to go find the other one to read. But yeah, after that, I like joined the Anne Rice fan club and, stuff that you could do back then. And it was like they actually mailed
Right.
you stuff to your house, which I
Right,
liked.
right.
And then I saw the
Like,
movie in the theater. I think it was about a year after I found the book. So I was really excited to find that, oh, there's a movie now, very shortly after I read the book.
excellent timing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just because I'm curious, what kind of stuff would you get in the mail as part of the Anne Rice fan club?
I remember there was like bookmarks, stickers. There was like some little poster type things that I remember sticking them on my wall. And they had things that were like for the balls that were even back then they still had. So it was like advertisements for the balls. So stuff like that. And if I remember, it was only something like $17 for the year. And you had to like, mail in your thing, not like email or whatever. You had to like put money in an envelope, send it in. So
this was before email existed. I know it's probably tough to think of a time like that, but yeah, only letters. Wow. Okay. Excellent. I never belonged to any fan clubs myself, so I'm always curious to hear what people got out of those.
It was the only one really that I did, and I was just like I said, I just loved the book so much, and I liked the movie, and it felt like why not? It was like $17. Sure, let's see what I get.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, and I used to have stuff like that on my walls too. Like at one point, I remember I got these certain type of encyclopedias that were on like folklore, horror, like all different things. And I actually got it so I could rip the pages out and use the pictures and put them on my wall.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, and I was one of those kids where I dressed in like all black, which I still do because I like black. And for a while, I even had the black lipstick and black nail polish and shit going on. So
right.
Yeah.
So just because I'm curious, was there ever a point where your parents were like, "Are you okay?"
My mom sometimes I think was, but yeah, like I got good grades in school, so everyone just kind of let me be. I was one of those kids.
It's amazing what that buys you as in terms of freedom.
It did, and even I found out later when I was okay as a kid till about grade 12, and then I started skipping classes and doing bad things. And and I remember though, I got caught at one point because the vice principal came around and he's like, okay, pulled you out. And he's like, okay, so you missed these classes. And again, I guess it was just how I was, but I don't know why I did this, but I said, well, I don't understand what the problem is. And he was kind of like, what? And I said, are my grades gone? Are they gone lower? And he's like, no. And I said, so what's the issue that I missed the class then? And he didn't have a response. And he was kind of like,
sassy.
He was like, okay. And then go back in. And I was like, okay. And I never got bothered again. So I don't know. It was just, yeah. Wow. So that's why I think I got left alone a lot. It was just like, okay, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Fine.
Right.
So
yeah, exactly. I'm not going to make this into more of a problem than it already is.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So getting back to Morbid Planet, what so we we had a conversation. I'm sorry, you're going to have to also listen to the episode where Erin interviewed me to get the back set. But I'll paraphrase here really quick. And we were talking about because we started your show and this show kind of started at the same time. And which is why when you started yours, I was like, oh, somebody's doing this at the same time. Like
I think you hit about a month before I did. I think I looked. I think you were about a month before.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah,
that could be.
But it was very close.
Very close. Yeah. So like we've actually gotten to sort of go through this experience together at the same time, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I am very impressed with the fact that you're putting out something every week.
Like yeah, I've actually been doing 2 a week. That was my goal. Yeah.
2 a week. Like I'm doing one every 2 weeks. So here so I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm sorry, this is just stuff I want to know. But first of all, how are you doing that? First question.
Yeah. It's one of those things again where I've had discussions with my significant other and marketing wise. And I know that the more content you have, the kind of faster the ball gets rolling because people go to your channel. There's more things to watch. So at first I kind of did the first few weeks, I did like 1 and then I'm like, no, my goal is going to be 2. So I was at first like Tuesday and Saturday. And then now I'm doing it on Thursday usually and Saturday. is what I'm doing. And then
Okay.
still figuring out the time, because it's kind of like with Facebook, a lot of people don't know, like if you post certain times of the day, you get no views. So you got to do it, what time you need to. But yeah, it's just one of those things where the interviews I like because they're in a sense easier, because I basically spend 3 or 4 hours, depending on who it is, researching and looking up and then making the questions that I want to ask. So, and then the actual interview itself is a couple hours. And then once you edit it and get it ready to post and everything. But like I went kind of gung ho in November, and I think I did about 7. So
Oof.
yeah, it was like every weekend I had one each day. And I think the one day I even had 2, like I had like 2 hours between. So I might do that again for January, but it helps so then you get a backlog. So that way, if I don't have time to make something else, then I can at least fall on, I have that to do. So I guess like the Morbid Minute ones that I started doing, those take 2 to 3 hours each. So those aren't too bad. And again,
Gotcha.
it's just kind of look up the topic. I go through the pictures in my head of what I want the story to look like. And then I write the actual audio at the very end to go over it.
Okay.
So yeah, those don't take very long. It's just the way my brain works with it. And then hopefully we will do some Virgin's Views, which you're familiar with. Which, for anyone that doesn't know, I did them on Vamped for years, where it's basically, they were vampire film ones though, and this way I can branch out into other things. But it would watch a film that I know absolutely nothing about and then talk about it and give a review after. So, which you have kindly agreed to. We're going to do some vampire ones, which should be fun. So
I need to pick a movie that vampire movie that Erin has never seen, so that she can watch it for the first time, and then we can talk about it afterward. So if any of you guys have any suggestions of stuff that you think Erin should see for the first time that is a vampire movie, please let me know.
It doesn't matter if it's old or new either. There's no timeline. It can be black and white. I don't care. I've watched a silent film one, and it wasn't bad, but so whichever.
Excellent.
But it just has to be something that I know nothing about. And it's like, I'm trying to think which one. Like Nosferatu was one where it's like, I know of it, but I know nothing about it. So that's where I just kind of went in, watched it, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what all the hype's about. So, and then like I watched, I guess it was 1958 Dracula, and then is it 1932 or 31 Dracula?
That's Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, so I watched, again, it's like there's so many films that I just know of, but I've never had the opportunity. And the one you talked about in the interview yesterday, I would have loved to have that one, but then you got into it so well. Otherwise, we could have done that one. And I was like, going to say something. I'm like, no, he's enjoying this. So I just left it. But that would have been a good one. Because I'd never heard of it.
We can totally, I mean.
No, you wrecked it now. Because you told me about it.
I told you too much about it?
You did, yeah.
That
would just, because we don't want to influence anything.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I know.
That's all right. There are plenty of vampire movies out there, and some really obscure ones too that we can choose from. We will never run out of them, so I am not worried about that.
So there you go. Yeah. So that's just some other things, and I'm just kind of exploring and seeing what other kind of like regular segments of something that I can do and like have once or twice a month of something. So ideally, amongst all the other things, I would like to have like 2 Virgin's View a month or something like that. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then: out of all of the stuff that you have done so far, what have you enjoyed the most in terms of like the episodes that you've made?
I'd say most of the ones, it's just, I guess it depends. So the interviews I really enjoy, because I've always been one of those people that, even as a kid, I would get people like, I swear I have an invisible sign on my forehead that says, come and talk to me. I want to talk to you. And I can be anywhere. And it's just, or sometimes I'll initiate it. Like I'll be in an elevator with someone. I'm just like, hey, how's it going? And then they're kind of like, why are you talking to me? So, I've always liked getting the story behind people's story. I like to hear things. And as a kid, one of my favorite things to do with my grandparents was, my grandpa was a little adventurous, and he would tell me all these different things that he did growing up and as he got older. And I'm just kind of like, I'm surprised you have not died because of the things that you did. And I just loved hearing stories like that. And whether it's older people, and older people I kind of favor more, but then younger people have just as many stories. But I like ones with older people because it's kind of like, maybe like, because I love black and white movies and I always have.
Okay.
We were talking the other day, and if I had to pick like top 5 movies, one of my 5 favorite movies is actually His Girl Friday. Have you ever seen it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe.
I think maybe when I was like 10 or something like
With
that.
Cary
Not
Grant,
enough to remember it.
and
Yeah.
they're a journalist and they own a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
I love old films like those because, again, there's no cell phones. It's just quirky. Just things happen the way they happen, and you couldn't ever have those happen anymore because technology and everything is there. Yeah. So whether it's like, you know, Katharine Hepburn, Humphrey Bogart, James Stewart, all those actors from that era, I love watching all those films. I have for years. Even when I was a kid, I used to watch them. So no one else does in my family. They were always kind of like, why are you watching this stuff? But
this old stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've always liked that kind of stuff. But yeah. So.
All right. Excellent. Okay. Well, then I guess I have a battery of 5 questions that I ask everybody sort of right at the end. So just to get a baseline for everybody that I talk to. So go ahead and just answer with whatever comes to mind.
Okay. Lightning round.
Exactly. It's a lightning round.
Okay.
Or I guess Morbid Planet style, it's the sudden death round. So the first question is, what was your entry point into the vampire genre?
Entry point, I would have to say, really entry point was probably reading Anne Rice's Vampire Lestat.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it was that moment
that tipped me over the edge where I'm like, school. Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Second question. What's your favorite thing to eat for breakfast?
Oh, I'm weird because I don't eat certain foods. So my breakfast choices are very limited.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm one of those people where it's like you can eat other stuff during the day for breakfast just because. Most of the time, I guess it's like cream of rice because I can't have even oatmeal. So, and I can't have wheat or anything, no gluten stuff.
Oh, all right. I'm very sorry to hear that.
Or I have like a gluten-free piece of toast, which isn't amazing. So breakfast is not my big thing of the day.
Gotcha.
You know, because you can't have bacon and stuff every day, obviously. So once in a while I'll have that. But yeah, I'd say cream of rice or gluten-free toast. Yeah.
Okay. I have certainly never gotten either of those 2 answers before. So you're a first there for that.
Well, I could eat fruit, sure. But I'm like, I don't really like fruit. So I'm like, I don't want to eat that. And yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So third question, do you have any superstitions or habits when you are working or creating?
Not that I can really think of. No, I just kind of do my own thing and just kind of works out. If it works out, it doesn't. If not, I change it and I start again. But yeah, no, I don't think I really have anything like that.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Question number 4. If you could talk to any other vampire creator, who would it be? What would you ask them about?
Vampire creator. Ooh, so many choices. It's like movies, books, which one? It's hard to say. I would go with probably a movie, and I would say maybe even like, no, I want to say Underworld, but then I'm like, no, Blade maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where maybe even Interview with a Vampire. It's like I don't have a total favorite, and I don't have a total favorite author. So maybe it would be more like talking to someone who did a film just to like hear about their experience on it.
Sure. Sure.
So if it's in that sense, maybe I would go with the whole interview with the vampire, just because, like, you know, how they hung upside down to have the veins showing, and yeah. And you know, they did, what was it? They had the trenches because someone was too tall and they had to like, yeah. So yeah, I'd go with that. There's not really, I don't really have a favorite for stuff though. So yeah, I'm more
Okay.
like mixed bag.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. Well, and hopefully you'll get a chance to talk to all of these people at some point in your
Hopefully.
career.
Yeah.
Okay, so question number 5, final one. Who was your Dracula?
Oh, it's so funny that you asked this. So I contemplated this last night because of your website.
Oh, really? What?
Yes.
How so?
So I went yesterday, as you know, because I added myself to your mailing list. And
Wonderful.
yeah, so
Oh, and
you,
the question is there.
yes.
So
And
you
so the
okay? All
question
right.
dropped down,
Excellent.
and I was just like, oh, this is a good question. And you forced me to then go and watch some stuff on, you know, YouTube after because of this.
You
Um,
had to research it. That's
Not research, it
wonderful.
was more like, I forgot about this. I'm going to go watch this.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
but out of all the choices, it was funny. And I know a lot of people don't agree with this, but whatever, it's my choice. Um, I really liked Claes Bang from the Netflix Dracula. I
Absolutely.
And it was weird because I remember I binged it and I watched it in like 2 days. And I know so many people were like, the third one was crap. The first two were okay. And a lot of people were saying this. And I watched it, and you know, the third one wasn't as good. But again, I've invested the time. I'm going to watch it all. And I even talked to my friend about this. It's funny, today on the phone, who I talked to in DC, because I mentioned your website made me think about it. And then she was like, oh my God, yeah. So we had a whole conversation about this today and about you with that on the phone. And it was funny because I really liked it because, again, it's like what we talked about with Coppola's is the Dracula was so much more into the story. He was
Hmm.
just so much more present. And
Right.
it's one of those things where I really enjoyed his character. He was just
Hmm.
arrogant. He was cocky. Just this air about him. He pulled it off so well. And I enjoyed that in the sense that if I enjoy the character, I can deal with a shitty plot line. That's, you know, but I don't like it the other way around. If the character is bad and the plot line is good, even no. So I'm more focused, I'd say, on the characters. So that was my choice after looking at them all. I'm like, no, you know what? I would take him over all the other ones. So
I
yeah.
love that. I love that. And you're also the first person to have chosen him for that
I know, because
question.
a lot of people won't, or a lot of people go for the classic, and you know, I watched those for the Virgin's Views because I'd never seen them, and I was like, eh, it's okay. You know, it's like reading Dracula. No, it was okay, but I was just disappointed. So yeah, and I know a lot of people don't agree with that either, but nope, that would be my choice.
That's all right. And I have to say that like I get the hate that show gets. But one thing that show did for me was it made me terrified of Dracula. Like the way that Kleist Bang portrayed him,
Hmm.
I never knew when somebody on screen was just gonna die. Like
Okay. It was
the
that
like I was
unpredictability where
it
it's
was
just, he's
so
just off
he
the handle.
exactly, and he
Yeah.
played it unpredictably, and
Yeah.
like you really felt like he was just playing with his food
Yeah.
for 3 straight episodes.
Yeah.
And so I was terrified for everyone else on and anytime like somebody would survive, I'd be like, "Oh, thank God." So and I don't remember ever feeling that way while watching a version of Dracula before. So
I don't think so either. And I think that's part of the reason I liked it is, and it kind of goes back to, and I know we talked about this yesterday too, was I loved Damon Salvatore from the Vampire Diaries because he had that. Just
Yes.
freaking rip someone's head off, pull the heart out, keep going, and just, grab a juice box.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's just how he was. And it was the same thing. I saw similarities, but I enjoyed that aspect because I like that where you can't predict what's going to happen, because then it shocks me. I hate it when you watch stuff and you're like, okay, the killer's chasing them. She's going to fall. She's going to get stabbed and die. We all know this. Or she's going in the creepy basement. Something's going to happen. Yes. But yeah, I liked that unpredictability that they have. But no, he did a really good job, I think. I hope they do a sequel. I really do. But yeah, it was interesting. One of the Netflix or the YouTube clips I watched last night was they were talking about the scene where he's outside the gate where he transformed and he was completely naked, covered in blood. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about filming that. And he's like, yeah, they wanted me to film it with say sweats on and then on the bottom, and then they could just film the top. And I guess he's the one that insisted he do it naked, because he said then at least you guys would have so much more options for the footage when you guys go to edit. As opposed to, he's like, if it was up here and, waist up, you're so limited and you can't get much.
Yeah.
And he's like, I froze to death. It was freezing outside. I was covered in fake blood, but I stuck it out and I did it. Yeah.
All right. Well, excellent answers to all those questions. Some wonderful surprises in there. So how can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Well, they can go to morbidplanet.com. That would be the easiest way.
Excellent.
I no longer have a contact page on there because I got too much spam. So it actually directs people to the Facebook page. So if you go to facebook.com/morbidplanet, you will find it. And that's the easiest way. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Erin, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. It is wonderful to be able to find out all of the stories behind all of the stuff that I've been watching you do for the last 10 years.
Yeah, so, no problem.
So thank you for indulging me.
Hopefully I didn't disappoint you.
No, not in the slightest. Quite the opposite, in fact. And obviously, I can't wait to see what you do with Morbid Planet from here on out. So thank you for sharing that with us.
It's all, a journey as I go along and fly by the seat of my pants. So,
excellent. Yeah. And that I wouldn't have it any other way, because it's absolutely fabulous to watch. So best of luck with that, and thanks for taking the time.
You're welcome. It was fun being here. We'll have to do this again, because I think we could just talk about movies and TV shows. I think that would just be fun in itself.
Don't worry, you will get some more of Erin and I talking about actual stuff. So yeah.
I think so. I can see that happening.
That was a lot of fun. It was great talking with Erin in both directions. It was great, being able to interview her. It was also really great being interviewed by her. If you want to see that interview where she asked me a bunch of questions, you can find that here. But otherwise, I'm looking forward to, intermittently dropping in some episodes for this series of vampire hosts. I have an interview that I shot several years ago with the vampire historian, Dax Stokes, so we'll be getting that one up. And we'll see if we can't, on occasion, talk to some other people who are doing, pretty much this type of thing, whether it be a YouTube channel or a podcast that is strictly vampire related. So anyway, thank you for joining. Please help yourself to anything else at the channel. Now, this show comes out every 2 weeks, or at least it has so far, but we're going to be skipping a week, and this show will come back 3 weeks from now, because there's something of a time-sensitive episode that I'm putting together, which I'm very excited about. So please come back for that on the weekend of March 5th, and we'll see you next time.